Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am so excited that you are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in and get comfy. I am so grateful to be back for another segment of the Business Bootcamp series presented by Discover Her Worldwide Incorporated and Comerica Bank. I'll start by acknowledging that COVID-19 affected communities across the globe. And after having to cancel several of our own annual signature events back in 2019, we decided to speak with our friends at Comerica Bank to identify what our next steps to make an impact would be. And so in 2020, we decided rather than having this annual event live or virtual, we decided to put together 12 business workshops on various topics that equipped entrepreneurs, small business owners, as well as nonprofit leaders to do our part for economic sustainability. And so you see, our goal is to educate and equip business owners and leaders in the professional industries with strategies and resources that you can apply to your business immediately. And I really want to stress this because it's important that we remain proactive in increasing access to tangible knowledge, as well as developing professional skills as we figure out how to navigate this post-COVID world together. Because I know even though the world has opened back up and then it closes back down, sort of, not really, we're still trying to figure all of this out. And so we are here again for season 2, episode 7 of the Comerica Business Sense Bootcamp series. And I have to say, hey, if you're new to me, I am your host, Margot Blair, leadership development consultant and founder of Discover Her Worldwide Incorporated. Discover Her is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona, even though we serve women across the globe. Our vision at Discover Her is designed to bridge the generational gap between diverse groups of women. And pre-Rona, we would do this through in-person professional and personal development experiences, such as conferences, trainings, seminars, workshops, you name it, we did it. And as we have figured out how to navigate this post-COVID world at Discover Her, we are cultivating virtual experiences such as this to teach the fundamentals that may have been missed, to equip leaders with actionable steps that you can apply to your business and life immediately, as well to grow our professional networks. You know I'm good for that. And I would be completely remiss if I didn't welcome and thank the company behind the yes of bringing this vision to life. So Summer, thank you so much. It is so good to have you here. Summer, for those of you who haven't met Summer yet, is the National Business Development Manager for Comerica Bank. And so Summer, it is so great to see you again and have you a part of this vision.
Yes, thank you so much, Margot. We are, of course, always excited to be here. This is an amazing event that we have put together, second year, kind of taking a look at businesses, where we are right now, what needs to be done, and how to promote to scalable businesses, and kind of getting those foundational options and things that we just don't learn until we go through some of the throes of business. So why not learn it now, kind of skip the messy bits and see if we can get through to an actual productive business. So if you're at a $50,000 annual business, you want to get to 100,000, or if you're 100,000, you want to get to 250 to $1 million. I mean, those are options that we want to develop, discover, because we're a business bank. So we want to do business with businesses. And what's the better way to make sure that we are helping kind of transform the lives of these business owners and then getting them to the next step that they're willing and wanting to go to. So we're super excited. These are wonderful topics, lots of information. We're sharing on Facebook, you said, I think Instagram, LinkedIn, I don't know, whatever it is, share it. Put it out there, get women-owned businesses knowing kind of what to do. We're really, really good at how to run a household. We can give birth to babies, we can run a household, we can be a CEO, and we can still do so many things. So there's no limit to the potential that we can actually do. Once we learn it, we have it, we'll implement it, and we will optimize everything we can from what we have. So we are an amazing group of people, women as a whole. We're unstoppable. So this is one of those things where we only have to give women founders, women CEOs, women business owners the information, and then we apply it to making our businesses whatever we want to make. So if you want to stay at 500,000 a year, you're like, look, I have kids in sports, I have dance recitals, I have things to do. I can't be $1 million business right now. So do that. If you're ready to be $1 million business, then do that. But whatever it is, be open to doing everything that we have the ability to do, because nothing is in our way, especially in this day and age. There's so many things that we can do. And it's just making sure we come together, collaborate, being open to those relationships, and then moving forward. So thank you so much, Margot. Thank you so much, Discover Her Worldwide, for allowing Comerica to be here to just host us and our business boot camps, and allowing this information, the business literacy and financial education, into these businesses and changing the lives of others. That's basically what we're doing. Such a huge impact. So thank you so much.
It is such an honor to really have built this with you over the last 2 years, right? Our first segment was super raw, and we were like, here's this information, do with it what you will. And now I feel like we have this whole strategy, and we're really bringing some heavy hitters to these conversations, right? And I think we're going to learn a little bit more from today's conversation. And again, I'm just really excited that we have this opportunity to bring this information, because again, so we've been doing this for 12 years, maybe one day, right? We've been doing this for 2 years, but 12 segments each year, right? So we have several more coming. But what I find to be interesting is that if you would have invested on your own into each of our services, that would have been more than $100,000. Like, I want to break this down so you really understand the magnitude. This is not surface level information. This is not you going to Google or YouTube University and just trying to just get all that you can, and you won't retain anything. We are really breaking down some fundamentals, behind the scenes, tangible strategies that we are literally using in our businesses and our lives today. So before we get started for today's segment, I do want to run through a few more housekeeping details. If you have heard them before, we're going to say them again just to make sure that those of us who are new really understand how this particular experience can serve you. So first and foremost, we invite you to be an active participant in this discussion. But what does that really look like? When you hear something that resonates or speaks to you, let us know in the comments. If it's live in the comments, that's great. We fuel off of energy, so please go ahead. If you would like one of us to provide some additional clarity or an example based on one of the topics we're discussing, let us know that too. And then we will have a final call for questions at the end if there's anything that we may have missed. Always, always, always have your notepad and pen ready, because my girl Lindsay is going to bring some heat today. So make sure to be taking notes. We always tell you to share. Sharing is caring, but it's also your duty to provide resources like this to your professional network. So go ahead and share, and then be sure to tag us in any quotables and major takeaways from this discussion. You can use the hashtag Rising Expectations or the hashtag Comerica Business Sense Bootcamp Series. And this allows us to just see what your major takeaways were. And finally, we would like to thank each of you for joining us, because you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you are here with us to learn, to grow, and to prepare to make a greater impact in the lives of those you're called to lead. So without further ado, Lindsay, I am so excited that you are here today. Today, we are on the topic of the community building blueprint. And I know anybody could have had this topic, but I said, nope, I need to talk to the community builder herself. She is a business mentor. And so I just want to take a second to introduce you to Lindsay Schwartz. If you do not know her, Lindsay is an entrepreneur, a business mentor, and a top podcast host. She's also a best-selling author. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today because that plays a part in this discussion on building a community. And she is fiercely committed to supporting other women. Lindsay invests her time in mentoring women and girls of all ages, from high-achieving entrepreneurs to high school students who are going to make their impact in this world as well. She is also an investor in female-founded companies, including a beverage brand, Lite Pink. And so we're going to learn so much more about Lindsay, and I'm just so excited to have you with us today. How are you, Lindsay?
Oh my goodness. Well, this is the best way to start a day. I'm just so honored to be here. And anytime I get to spend time with your energy, I'm a yes. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this conversation around the community building blueprint, why is this conversation even important for you, Lindsay? Why do you think you're here?
Well, I think like so many of us, we teach what we at one point had to learn and the thing that we need to continue remembering. And the truth is that I created community and I surrounded myself with others because for a long time, I still was trying to do it all on my own. And I think Summer said it so well when you said, you know, we as women are incredible and most of us can do it on our own. We can figure it out. We can make these things happen. But the truth is, I learned the hard way over time that I'm not meant to do it alone, that I can go further faster if I am building community, if I am enrolling others in my vision and, you know, creating a platform to serve them too. So I think it really came by, and just being totally transparent, it's the thing that I need to remember is that I may be able to figure a lot out on my own. I'm pretty savvy. I can bootstrap things. I can figure things out. I know how to Google. I have a Google, master's degree by now, but that's not always the best way. And I think often we're given these big visions that were never meant for us to do them alone. We're given a vision that's so big, we're meant to find others who have skills that complement ours in order to make that true big impact that we're meant to make. And I watch you, Margot, do this, and so many amazing women in our community as well. And so that motto that we say within Powerhouse Women, we're not meant to do business or life alone. That's for me. And I'm hoping that I'm guessing it probably impacts a few other people too, but I should really have it tattooed on my body at some point because I just need that reminder all the time.
And I love that so much. And you're spot on. And I didn't want to take your tagline from you because I knew you were going to say it. And you're probably going to hear it once or twice. But I want us to repeat that, right? We are not meant to do business in life alone. This is your motto. This is your tagline. This is really how you've built your community. Right. And so I want us to just dive in. We're kind of going to do some high level questions, but then we're going to dive deeper to talk about the psychology behind community building, as well as some strategies. Right. So I want us to go ahead and just get started. What exactly is community building? How would you describe that for those who have heard of it? They might know what it is, but they don't know exactly what community building is. What exactly is it?
Yes, I love this question because here's what I find, especially in the business world, is we're living in this age of social media, right? So we know that having a presence on social media, whatever platform we choose, is an important piece of just building awareness and finding the people that we can serve. But I was asked to do a training for someone's mastermind where I got to teach on this concept of community building. And I think it had me really step back and say, okay, well, what have we done? What has actually contributed to the growth of our community called Powerhouse Women? And this realization really hit me in that moment. That so often we hear a lot of training and a lot of even just desire to build an audience. Now, an audience is not a bad thing to build. We want to find more people that we can possibly serve. But there's a difference in my eyes between building an audience and building a community. And I actually think the slight but powerful difference between these two is what makes a business become a brand that people like have that obsession level dedication to. And here's how I define the difference. This is just literally from my own personal perspective. And I think it's, if someone asked me to wrap up in one or two sentences, what has contributed to the organic growth of Powerhouse Women as a community? No paid ads, nothing beyond just word of mouth and us really giving back to our women. So when I think about an audience, I think building an audience and having that intention is really us asking the question, how can I get more people to follow me? How can I have more people interested in what I'm doing? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You need people to know what it is that you offer the world. So I'm not at all saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying there's a slight difference. So an audience is how many people are following me? How can I increase the number of people following me and just build more awareness? A community is asking the question, how can I get more people connecting with each other? How can I have my brand, my platform be the place that people know they can find resources? They can find a business bestie. They can find pretty much anything they need to make the next step forward in their own business journey by asking. They're maybe one introduction away from any resource that they could possibly need. So when your brand, when your company becomes that place where people know they can connect with other people like them, I think it goes back to even what you were starting, how you started this segment and talking about how in this post-COVID world, I mean, we're starved for connection more than ever. So it's this slight shift of, yes, you want to grow overall your exposure and the awareness of what it is that you're doing, the great work that you're doing. But then I think how you go deeper and how you create actual relationships that transform people's lives, transform the communities we live in, is to ask yourself, okay, now within this audience I've built, how do I get more people connecting with each other? And I know we'll totally dive into some of the tangible ways that people can do this, but I've yet to find a business. Here's what I'll also say. I have yet to find a business that couldn't add a community element to it. I've not been stumped yet, and would love to dive in even to some examples if anyone is watching and kind of thinking, okay, I see how it makes sense for maybe a business community like Powerhouse Women, but like I own a pet store. How do I create community? Or I'm, whatever it might be. So yeah, would love to dive into some examples if anyone watching has questions.
Absolutely. And we will be diving into exactly that. And I love that because so you one of the things that I just took away from what you said is we are one introduction away. And it's so funny because I use a slight variation of this and I say we're one decision away from a completely different life or business. And so this is so true when we're talking about building community. We are one introduction away from a completely different life, from a completely different business. And the part that's connected to this is you said relationships. Mm-hmm. Summer, I think Lindsay has been ear hustling in these other conversations we've had because we've talked about relationships, establishing organic relationships, taking time to nurture, cultivate, and develop the relationship, not just going to make the ask, but really taking time to, well, Lindsay, who are you and what are you about? What fuels you? What gives you that passion and that fire, right? And you hearing my story, so you understand why I'm so on fire when it comes to collaboration and how it can be profitable. There's always that backstory. And so when you say we're one introduction away, I think that's so important. And I really wanted to emphasize that even before we go deeper into the discussion, because it's important for you, all of the listeners, even us, because we still do this today, as I said, but when we're talking about your one decision away, it's understanding that you bring something of value to the table. Mm-hmm. Even if you want to ask for something, even if you feel you're gapped or you need something to understand your value. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can discover that today. So Lindsay, thank you for breaking that down, the difference between building your audience as well as building your community, because that's so, so different.
Yeah.
I think there's another part to this too. When we're talking about building the community, what are the different types of community that you have been a part of?
Yes. So there's so many. And I think this was even how the Powerhouse Women community as it is today ended up being formed, because I was really searching for a place as a newer entrepreneur to, yes, be able to network. And at the time, this was several years ago, there were a lot of amazing networking communities. I was a member of a BNI group for several years. So that's a professional networking group. Actually, we banked with Comerica. So I have a lot of experience with Comerica, and it was wonderful. So it's all coming full circle now. And then went on as I started my own business to join masterminds and things like that. But where I was noticing a gap. And again, I think so often when we can't find what we're looking for, that might be a sign that we're meant to create it, right? I know that's so much of what you built your business on as well. And I was looking for that place where, yes, we were being intentional with connecting, but the connecting happened naturally because we were being honest about our struggles and just as honest and proud about our accomplishments. And I know I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically female entrepreneurs in my life, where we may not have that circle in our life where people get our vision. So you may have a really supportive family. I do. But they're not entrepreneurs. They don't always understand like exactly my pain points, or if I'm really going through a challenge. I call one of my entrepreneur friends who, kind of knows how to just support me through that struggle or that challenge, or just knows I need to vent. So I think there's so many amazing options out there, but it's finding the one that really feels like it supports you in the way you need to be supported in this season of your business. And for me, I was looking for a place where I wanted to see women who I looked up to and admired, but also share about the last time they ugly cried because they were still figuring it out as they go. I was like, where's that place? Those are my people. And it didn't exist back then. Now I think there's so many more, even in the Phoenix area where I'm also based, there's so many more incredible communities for entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs. But at the time, clearly there was a need because there were several of us that sprung up around the same time, all looking for the same solution.
And again, I think that's so key, right? So I heard networking, I heard connecting, I heard belongingness, right? Even vulnerability and transparency. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day. She's a heavy hitter in the industry and I'm a heavy hitter in the industry. And there's no arrogance there. This is just the truth, right? And if we got into a space where we can talk about the things that we do well, our strengths in a way that, no, I'm not just tooting my horn, but I really see myself, right? What we were talking about was being vulnerable with our growth areas. And I think this is a really big piece where building a community can help people thrive, because yes, you're great in this area, but what happens when life hits you? What happens when you run into that challenge and you might be the bottleneck in your business and you don't know what to do? And honestly, you've exhausted your subscription to Google University, or you really don't know what that next best step would be. Being able to sit down with the Summers of the world and say, hey, sis, I'm struggling here. What insight can you give me? Or, hey, Summer, I know you're connected to this group, this mastermind. Do they have any openings? Because I'm ready to take it to the next level. What does that look like? And so I really heard that as you're describing these different types of communities. Number one, figure out where you belong. But then also, if you don't see it, if there is that gap, you might be the one who's called to create that experience, because it is guaranteed that there are other women who are not called to create it would be a part of that. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that a summation of what I heard you say?
That was so much better than I could have even put it myself. And really, I think it's realizing that you're going to possibly need different communities at different stages of your growth and of your business. So, I always share how, unfortunately for me, when I know I'm ready to go into my really next big season of growth, it almost always requires me to invest financially in being in a room that I feel a little bit like an imposter, being in a room where I'm not the smartest person, and having something on the line financially that feels uncomfortable to me, that's going to almost like be the catalyst for me committing to the goal that I set and to the growth on the days that I want to quit, because I have them all the time. So that's where growing into being a part of masterminds and things like that, and now hosting mastermind experiences for women, to give them that same container where, fortunately or unfortunately, for a lot of us, it requires us to take a leap of faith, like to step beyond where we see ourselves right now. And I always say, like, when I talk to entrepreneurs about like how to decide when you're really ready to invest in something like that, I always take the perspective of, who do I want to be a year from now? So I don't invest, I don't join a group based on what feels comfortable for me right now. I think about like, who's the version of me a year from now? And what room does she really belong in? And then walk in knowing that if I'm not the smartest person in the room, that means I have the most to gain. And that has been such a catalyst for my growth, for so many other women that I've had the honor to work with. And so it's exactly like you said, it's finding that space where you can be authentic and vulnerable. And if you don't see it, maybe you're the one to create it. But then always making sure, if I'm going to create community for others, in order to be in integrity for me, I need to also be investing in the next version of myself, so I can keep, not just so I can keep growing, but it's also so I can stay connected to how uncomfortable it feels when we're putting ourselves in that room. Because the moment I lose touch with that is the moment I no longer can make the impact I know I'm really meant to make. Because the women who are maybe stepping into like their very first event this weekend with us and are feeling really uncomfortable, I need to remember how that felt. I always have to be stepping into like the next room that makes me kind of want to puke because I'm like really uncomfortable.
And I love that so much. And I want to even throw this to Summer, because Summer she's corporate, right? But she's not only corporate. And there's this misconception that she doesn't know anything that we're talking about, but she does. So Summer, you come with a wealth of knowledge, and I want you decide how you want to approach this, but I do want you to share the corporate side. But again, you also are an entrepreneur. You have several businesses. So I want you to kind of balance this out and just add to what we're talking about here is, why is building a community important? And then what are the types of communities you have been a part of?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I'm corporate. I've been corporate since I was like, I don't know, 20. I just fell into it because I failed at being an entrepreneur when I was 19. So it was one of those things like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sing. So I was like, corporate it is. And I loved it. Like, I learned so much. So absolutely love corporate, still love corporate, doing it for 21 years. But my community within the corporate area allows me to do my businesses so much better. I don't know if that's just me, or just if people feel that, like, utilize your community. Everyone wants to see you succeed. If you have the people around you who are truly excited about your success, whatever that means to you, then utilize the people around you. I ask my business bankers all the time about things that I might not understand. Like, what are the qualifications for $1 million line of credit? Asking for a friend. No, it is one of those things where just like, yeah, like what do we need to know? Just because if we're just looking at it on a corporate level, and it's my community, my corporate, and I'm looking at all the clients who might apply, who might get declined, who might get approved, then I'm looking at a service level. But when I start applying that to, what does that mean about me? What does that mean about my businesses? Then I'm able to kind of talk to my own community and say, okay, look, this is the deal. Let's look a little bit further. Let's do this. In 6 months, we can get to that. And then we're going to refi it. And then so there's more of a strategic plan when you're looking at it more internally and for your community, opposed to just looking at a surface level. So I do have 2 other businesses. I help Comerica with the corporate side of things, and we do the African American business development. So business development is huge, and I have to do that across all markets, and it's very, very important. However, I'm from a family of entrepreneurs. I'm honestly the only person who has a W-2 in my entire family. So it's just one of those things where I am the other person that they're just like, okay, all right, so you do this, why? I'm like, because I make an impact in people's lives. Leave me alone, people. So, but I can do my other business. So, Lindsay, when you said if you have a pet business and try to figure out the community, like, I have a pet business. But I love our pet community. Like, the pet community is humongous when you think about it. Like, we love our pets, and how dare you say my pet's ugly? So it's just one of those things where like we are big with the pet community. So we do dog treats, dog chews, and we're growing at a rapid level. And the insight you get from your communities, you put it into your personal. So don't feel uncomfortable. Feel uncomfortable, because that's where your success blooms. But don't feel uncomfortable to be uncomfortable. If that makes any sense, like, get yourself in those spaces, get yourself around the people that you look up to, that you want to kind of replicate. Say, look, I see you have that $5 million business. Give me a tour of your facility, or tell me a little bit more. I was totally scared to contact a commercial leasing agent or commercial real estate. So I'm babbling, just trying to figure out. In the corporate world, I'll be like, oh yeah, this is who you need. This is what you need. But I don't know what happens after that, after I give those resources, right? I'm just like, that's what you need. Go get it. You're empowered. Do you? And then I get there. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how much is the lease? What do I have to sign? Like, it's completely different. So put yourself out there, ask those questions, understand people are willing to help you. People give you all the information, and take those leaps, take those risks, because in those areas of like your eyes twitching, your nerves are going crazy, that's when you're going to see the hugest growth. You're going to scale your business like no other, being in those rooms, being uncomfortable. Because once you're uncomfortable, then it just keeps growing, and it just keeps growing. And then when I mentioned that you go from a $50,000 to $100,000 to $250,000, if you're willing and you want it, you can get to a $10 million business. You have to know how to, I know this word's out there, but pivot. You have to change, you have to adapt, you have to kind of understand your failures are just truly allowing you to scale. Because if you don't fail, you don't know that you, like, if you don't fail and you have a $100,000 business, you're like, oh, I'm at six figures. You love that. Six figures, you're at 100,000, like $1 less, you're not at six figures. But like, put yourself in there and be like, okay, I have this business. But what you would, if you would have just pivoted or put yourself in a space or room where you would have been open to hearing additional information, you could have taken that same time and be at $1 million business. There's a big difference. You have to be open to hearing whatever critique people want to give you. If they do it in kind, if they do it in love, take that critique, move, pivot, grow, and excel at what you're doing. But put yourself in those rooms, because the uncomfortable spot is your growth area. That's where you grow. So enjoy it.
Your uncomfortable spot is your growth area.
Oh,
that's
like
a quotable.
that's a retweet right there.
That's a quotable. Exactly. And again, you both mentioned some really, really key pieces. And I want to talk about this room piece before we go to the next question. We all have heard this advice. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Right. And so if you go into a room and you are the smartest person, well, there's some things that you might want to reevaluate. And one of the other pieces that I like to share with my clients and students is be willing to learn new things about what you already know. And when I say that, right, learn new things about what you already know. You are an expert in your field, in your industry, but there's other people who have been there, done that longer than you, before you, they failed faster, they have they different experiences than you. And so when you not only go into these rooms that can stretch you, but when you connect with other people who can provide you with more value in your own industry, this is where I thrive when I talk about collaboration, because people like to talk about pitching the brands and getting that dollar, and you see the influencers do their thing, all fine and dandy. But what I'm like, oh, let's take it all the way back. Let's collaborate with people in your own industry. And that's community for me. Collaborating with other subject matter experts, other people who focus on partnerships and collaboration, events, anything else that I'm passionate about. And what happens is I bring something unique to the table. And if all that's unique is my experience, that's where I'll thrive and that's where I'll stand out. And that same thing is true for you. Go into the rooms, don't be afraid to ask, and show up willing to learn. Remain in the posture of a student. And I think this is a really great segue to go into this next question for you, Lindsay. because again, there's some things that I really want the audience to begin thinking about. So can you please share the do's and don't you dares of community building?
I love the way you phrase that. And yes, you know, even what you were just sharing reminded me of, and I didn't mention this before, but I think it would be valuable before I answer this question, because the way I think about community is, for me, there have been 3 specific types of community that I've built to really support my business journey. And I think it's important to realize that the do's and don't you dares for each are going to be a little different. So the first one is the community of people you impact, right? Those are your customers, your potential customers, the people who need what you have to offer. And so that's one specific type of community. The second one is that we talked about is a community that you're mentored by, people who are further along than you, that you can learn from, that you can plug into, that you can ask those vulnerable questions like you were saying, Summer, when you're like, I have no idea how to do this. So a community that you're mentored by. And then the third one is a community that you collaborate with. And you just nailed this, Margot. You are such an example of this to me. And that's even how I ended up on this conversation today, because you and I developed just this very genuine connection through social media on the premise of collaboration and what we could each offer each other. So I think if I'm going to answer it just in terms of, well, which community are you really looking to build, or where maybe this relationship that you see you want to build, which one of those communities does it really fit into? Because I think the intention behind each is a little bit different. And knowing that going in is really, really powerful, because then you know how to position yourself, as you so eloquently said, knowing and owning the skills that you have and the value you bring, but with a spirit of humility that there's always more for you to learn. I think that's the sweet spot. It's not being humble to a fault and not being a champion for our own gifts, but it's also realizing, like, I hope I would be so bored if I like knew it all. I would have nothing else to learn. There would be no more growth. That would be like so boring to me. So I love finding that sweet spot of being really grounded and rooted in what I do bring to the table, and always have that curious spirit of, well, what else don't I know? What don't I know that I don't even know? So when I look at the do's and don't you dares for building the community of people you impact, I think people, especially now, we can just see right through inauthenticity. And, you know, authenticity is something, it's either there or it's not. And so I think, like, oftentimes I think about early on in my own business journey, you know, I had this hunger and this desire to make an impact. And sometimes that came across a little bit too ambitious, right? And I'm calling it on myself to say that even though this is something that I feel I've really, that is a key to my success, is that people can feel my authentic heart. Even I sometimes show up and I'm really thinking more about, well, what can I get from this interaction more than what can I give? And that's human. So if you find yourself there, again, it's not like an excuse to beat ourselves up, but I think always thinking, like, how can I give first? How can I serve? How can I show up and wake up every day with the intention to solve people's problems? The more I do that, the less I have to think about, like, the money coming into my bank account, or like, am I hitting sales targets? So I think with the community that you impact, the don't you dares are, you know, I think in all 3 communities, don't come to the table first with what you want. Come to the table first. And you, again, Margot, you just are like the prime example of this. Come to the table with, like, how can I serve you? How can I help you? And sometimes that's just, how can I learn more about you so that I don't even have to ask how I can help you? I just already see the need and I'm going to fill it. And I think that's like the going above and beyond. So that, first and foremost, the do is pay attention, really do your homework, listen, ask great questions, come to the table asking how you can serve far more than you ask for how someone can help you, because naturally the response as humans is, when you receive value from someone, when you receive a contribution, or when someone's just a really generous listener, most people, right, there's always a caveat, most people will then say, well, okay, but what can I do for you? How can I help you? So all 3 categories, that one applies. And then the other is, I think so often in our community, we have these conversations about collaboration. You mentioned it. I think Summer, you mentioned it too. You know, collaboration is kind of this word. It's like a buzzword, but then in a way we're sort of like, what does that mean? does that mean you want, like when someone DMs you like, hey girl, want to collab? It's like, do you want me to work for free? I'm not clear here. So I think when it comes to collaboration, I'm going to touch on this because you touched on it. Be clear. The don't you dares are don't be super vague. Come to the table with a clear intention. Hey, I think a collaboration might make sense. Here is one thought that I had about value I can provide to you. Would you be open to a 15-minute conversation to discuss, whether or not this would be a good fit? So I think just being very clear in communication, not being afraid to put yourself out there. Once again, that's how we even connected and became friends, was that Margot put herself out there. She slid into my DMs, and it was like such natural synergy and chemistry that if she had been afraid to do that, we wouldn't be having this beautiful conversation today. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, but come to the table first thinking how you can serve, and then be clear about what your intention is for that collaboration or that relationship. And those things alone would just completely change your experience building any one of those 3 types of communities for your business. And they're so simple to do. So anything you want to add to that, Margot? Because I know this is totally your jam too.
Yeah. So I had to ask some questions that I was going to be able to chime in on, but you nailed it on the head. And I'm like, how would I look at this? How would I look at this? And for me, clarity, you said it, that's my number one. When you said clarity, I'm like, ding, that's mine too. Transparency, you said authenticity, semantics, potato, but transparency. And for those of you who have, this is not your first boot camp, I'm always putting myself on the chopping block. And the reason why I feel that's important is because my sole mission in all that I do is to help others expedite their learning process. And what better way to say, oops, I slipped on a banana peel, or, oh, I had lipstick on my teeth, or, oh, there was toilet paper on my shoe. And no one told me I had to figure that out. I'm the one who's going to tell you, hey, sis, you have lipstick on your teeth, but I'm not going to shout that for the world to see. I'm going to say, hey, sis, you have lipstick on your teeth. Here's a napkin. And so that clarity piece, that transparency piece, those both go into collaboration, or collaboration done right. But then the other 2 pieces, again, in direct correlation to what you said, sis, is servanthood and stewardship. Mm-hmm. And that really goes into another, just a value of mine, which understanding how my faith plays such a significant role in my business, in the way I do business. And so again, just the response to the questions that that very question, the do's and don't you dares, everything that you said is a do. The opposite of that is a don't. Everything that you said is a don't. The opposite of that is what you should do.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so well said. Yes. And just to realize it doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, I forget who now. Oh, it's a dear friend of mine. Her name's Natasha Hemingway, and she's a sales expert. And she talks about one of her biggest keys to success. You ready for it? Don't be weird. And that's it, right? It's like, if we could just not be weird, think about what would feel weird if we were on the other side of that message, and just don't do that. And I'm making light of it just because I don't think it has to be that complicated, but so often, we don't realize how communication is coming across because we're just very attached to an outcome, like a specific, I want this to happen, versus being committed to a relationship and trusting that what will unfold will unfold.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it here. I'm gonna take it here for a few reasons. So for Summer and I connected organically, the same way Lindsay and I connected organically. I was a membership chair for an organization, and I was talking to Summer, and then we met again, and then we met again, and then I was supposed to contact her, and I lost her number, and then she was like, hey, you didn't call me, here's my number again, and then we went to lunch, and then she became a sponsor for our annual conference, and then 2020, and then here we are again. And so our relationship has developed, what would you say, 4 or 5 years now?
I would say about 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years, going on the 5th year, however. And I want to tell you this journey, because all of this goes into the community building. Now, I'm going to say this now, I'm not saying it's going to take you 5 years to build your community, not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it started organically. And I didn't go and say, hey, hey, Summer, I know you're the VP of Comerica Bank, cut me a check. Did I ask you to correct me if I'm wrong? That's not how our relationship.
Not at all. No.
If she would have said no for the record,
there wouldn't be any more conversation.
for the record, she would have, there's that, you know. And so I really want to share this, like, how am I sitting on a call, or we're going to have, by the end of this year, we'll have 24 segments. How have I sat for 90 minutes with the VP of a national bank? Let's really like break this down this way. And it came back to taking time to nurture this relationship. So I wanted to share that piece. Now, Lindsay told the story. I would have told it at some point today, but I did slide into her DMs. And the funny thing is, some people would have looked at the social media following and said, oh, she's not going to respond to me, so I'm not even going to reach out. She's this big, you know, heavy hitter in the community, and, you know, she's just not going to reach out, so she don't do it. And I showed up my natural way, and I showed up sending an audio message. I'm like, hey, this is Margot, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've listened to several episodes of your podcast, and I didn't see this. And this is what I talk about. I have 2 topics that actually could stand out. You let me know which you feel could potentially serve your audience. It was definitely cleaner than that, but nonetheless, that was the objective. That was what I shared. And it wasn't, I want to say this point because Lindsay mentioned not showing up and what you can get or what you can take from the situation. There was something that I could add to what she was already doing. And so I said, hey, I bring this to the table. Do you feel that your audience would receive anything from it? And both Lindsay and I will tell you, her audience received a lot from that one episode, and, you know, among others. But again, it started with an organic, hey, I see you. Can I fill this gap? If you feel it's a gap as well. And so again, just as we're having this conversation on building a community, just see how these things are relevant to you. See if you've tried to build community and you feel it didn't work out. Think about what we've been saying for the last 50 minutes so far, and just see what areas you need to grow. Mm-hmm. Lindsay, is there anything that you want to chime in before we go to the next question?
No, it's so good. I hope everyone is getting like how massive and impactful this can be if you just are willing. A good friend of mine, Lori Harder, always says, send 5 scary emails every single week. Send, you know, that email to the person you're afraid to connect to. I'm like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, shoot, I need to do even more of that, because you just never know. And, you know, social media is a funny world. You know, we get caught up in like the number of the followers and all of that. Remember that it's a human being behind that, behind that screen. And I'm not that popular. You know what I'm saying? Like, there aren't that many DMs in there. And it's always, I think, when you take the time to make that personal connection and remember that this is a human being. We're just like interfacing through a screen and through this social media profile, but I could feel your heart right away that you were looking to connect with the real me, not the social media version of me, which is a part of my brand. And that's beautiful to have that tool. But at the end of the day, I'm a human, and I'm from the Midwest. So I want to make like the real personal connections. And, you know, we're going to get to finally meet in person this weekend.
I'm so excited.
I want to hug you so hard. And I think just that's it, is don't be afraid to send the scary requests and the scary messages, because you never know where someone, maybe it's your next best friend or the person who's going to introduce you to your biggest client. You just never know. But I also think that you send those requests or those messages with no attachment at all. It's really like putting it out there and just knowing that what is meant for you is never going to miss you. The opportunities, the people, the relationships, it's not going to miss you. So don't be afraid to be bold and come forward with a servant heart and just that genuine desire to connect. And I can't wait to hear like some of the magical connections that come from those of you who are going to take that tip and start to send the bold, the scary messages or emails after this.
Again, so spot on. And yeah, when, this next question I feel is going to be super key for some people, because you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Lindsay, and you talked about like the online space. Community building is often tied to creating a membership, a paid membership, a free membership. Is a membership the only type of community? Can you shed some light on that as well?
Such a great question, because I think that I would even say what people normally think of when they hear community is a Facebook group. Now, again, that's a great tool. If we have several Facebook groups and they're a great tool for connecting people. But again, if we go back to the original intention, community is you providing a way and a place for other people to connect with each other. For people who align, if they resonate with your brand, then they're probably going to have at least something in common with another person who also resonates with the brand. So I'll give some examples of non-membership or non-Facebook group types of building community that I really think are just so cool. To give you, I want to have your wheels start turning about whether you have a pet business. Oh my gosh, I love that. Summer is like, I actually do. I like to use that example because people always think, well, gosh, well, like, what would that look like for me? So what it means to build a community is you're starting conversations. You're inviting people into conversations that, again, help them connect with others who might be like-minded. Yeah. So you could do this. Let's say you have a product-based business. I have a friend who has a product-based business. It's a luxury handbag. And she doesn't have a Facebook community, but she has a customer base. And I would even say like a community of people who haven't even yet purchased from her. But what she rallies people around, and maybe that's more the thing to take away from this, is what are you rallying people around? Yeah. For her, it's this message of like this aspirational woman who's very strong and she speaks her mind. And then and I've had this happen to me. This is how you know you've really built a community, especially around like a physical product. When you see someone else with that product, and I've had women come up to me and see my handbag and say like, oh my gosh, like, it's like they already know, like, I see you. I know what kind of woman you are based on the fact that you align with this brand. Yes. So I bet we can all think of brands that maybe we love to wear, or it could be you drive a specific car and you already feel this affinity with others who drive that specific car. That's right. So what are you rallying people around? Is it an aspirational identity, something you're all working to becoming? Is it, like Summer said, is it the love of our pets? I mean, that alone, right? Those tapping into those deeper human emotions, that creates community like nothing else, right? Literally, my puppy is literally sleeping right next to me. He's so cute. I can't even handle it, right? So it's like those of us who share those same emotions, whether it's being a parent or being a pet parent, or being an entrepreneur. Yep. So question to ask yourself, what are you rallying people around? And then also, how are you creating conversations among the people who are probably like-minded because they resonate with you? So I think of a brand like Comerica, and I'm sure Comerica even does this. Actually, I would love to hear, Summer, we can plug this if Comerica does, but think about like a bank that provides an opportunity for entrepreneurs to come together and network with each other. And yes, like maybe Comerica is providing the space for it, whether or not these people are customers. And it creates this natural environment where now I start to think like, wow, Comerica Bank really cares about me as an entrepreneur. And I'm not even their customer, and they're inviting me to participate in something that's giving me value, right? So it can be totally like not at all what people traditionally think about building community. And it can build community that goes deeper than anything else that we could do in our business. So I am curious to hear, Summer, is that something that Comerica already does?
Actually, yeah. So this is kind of the virtual space of what we do. So prior to 2020, we did boot camps, we did financial business sense, and we would invite the community. We would invite all types of resources. So a lot of people think that, if a bank's putting it on, it means I have to qualify with the bank. No, we invited CDFI lenders. We invited community lenders that can do the lending that we can do. And all of the entrepreneurs, anyone who had a gross annual revenue of less than $1 million, so that you felt comfortable in your space. And they networked. There were so many different types of industries when we had an actual space. it was amazing. It was amazing. So we did it with different markets. We did it for women. We did it for Black business owners. We did it for Hispanic business owners. We did it for all business owners, like whichever one you think you want to fit and feel comfortable in, come enjoy, do it. And there were some people who went to all of them. There's just so different, so many different areas and aspects, and it built the community. And I will tell you, most of the people there did not bank with Comerica Bank. And that's okay. That's okay. We wanted to just provide the information, provide faces to some of those scary times of, am I allowed to ask this question? Are you going to judge me differently if I ask this question? So we opened it up. We made it extremely just personal, and banks are scary. So if you personalize it and bring it into the community and make it much more fun, there were so many questions were answered that took some of those barriers and those walls down. So thank you for bringing that up, Lindsay. Yes, we do offer it. Hopefully we can go back to more in-person options next year, but it's still virtual.
And such a great point too about like being willing to, within Powerhouse Women, we threw out the word pivot last year. We were like, we're just over that. So we've been using the word reimagine. We're reimagining things into something that, now look at this. We're able to reach people around the world because this is virtual. And I didn't set you up for that, but I was assuming that knowing Comerica and knowing just what an incredible organization it is, there was probably multiple ways that, think about that. That's a bank creating community. I gave an example of a product company creating community. And all that it really has to be is, are you creating those conversations? Are you adding value, or thinking about like, who else could add value to this group of people that are listening to me by bringing in other experts like you two have done with this series. So hopefully this is giving people like just some new ideas and getting the wheels turning about the different ways they could add a community element to their business and just make an even bigger impact. And it's just more fun that way too, I think.
Both of you touched on several really great points, and Summer, you got to witness it. And so I'm going to bring this up because what you ladies are talking about is what are some of the steps to go. And we're going to talk more about strategy in a moment, but I want to share essentially Discover Her's vision. And what our focus is bridging generational gaps between diverse groups of women. And when I first say that, it's like, okay, that sounds great, but what does that mean? And until you really come to an experience, you don't know what that means. And if I told you before you came, you wouldn't know how to really take it. And so I just want to really bring a picture, or paint the picture of the 2019 Women in Action Conference. The mission of our conference is to bring together entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, and formerly incarcerated women. On the surface, so this is what I mean by, if I told you that first, like, oh yeah, we host events for these three groups of people, wait, what? Where's the connection? It just won't make sense on the surface level. If you've never been, you won't get it, and why. And so again, not that we're being deceptive, but again, it goes to messaging and what is the purpose. And so when we say our mission is to bridge generational gaps between diverse groups of women, that allows the people who that statement resonates with to be in the room. And then just to describe what happened in the room, we had these conversations around, and I'm going to share it this way. One of the keynote conversations was the suicide of sisterhood. And we talked about this competing for resources, the mean girl syndrome, and really just what is happening to this community of leaders, women leaders, and why we aren't collaborating, and we're really competing with other people, because that's what the business world has taught us. We have to dismantle and discredit or really take out our competitors. But that's not true. There is impact and money to be made when we collaborate, right? And so then the other piece to this was, okay, well, where does the formerly incarcerated women come in? And I'll share my story one day for those of you who don't know, but the incarcerated population, or the reentry population, has a very special place in my heart. And the fact is that they aren't always able to get jobs when they're out of prison, when they're out of juvenile detention or whatever. If they have a record, they're not able to necessarily get a corporate job. And so for them, what we ended up doing is we brought corporate businesses who do offer jobs to second chancers. But then we also wanted them to be exposed to entrepreneurship because several of them were creative beings, or they got creative when they had their time away. Right. And so again, that is how one of the communities that I was able to build. And I wanted to take time to just break that down to give this example. Even though I didn't recreate the wheel, it was a conference. That was the vehicle. The conferences are not new. But what was my unique or secret sauce was the audience I wanted to serve. And so again, as Lindsay was mentioning, break this down, take time to think about this. I wanted to also share that example because we don't necessarily talk about the behind the scenes of building the community. And so I think this is the best point to really dive deeper. I was going to say pivot. I'm like, they'll both glare at me if I say pivot. I want us to dive deeper. That's actually what I would say. And I want us to talk about the psychology behind building the community and behind community building. And Lindsay, I know you're going to bring some really great insight here. So we talked in the beginning about why community is important, but how can you specify how community has actually impacted your life? And you can, again, reference back to the communities that you've been a part of or the community that you've created with Powerhouse Women or anything else that comes to mind. But can you specify how community has actually impacted your life tangibly?
Well, you highlighted the book that I wrote in the very beginning. And that's immediately what popped into my mind that, you know, behind, again, the social media profile or whatever people see from me today is a woman who has just put a lot of work into getting out of my own way. And one of the most pivotal communities I've ever been a part of that came into my life at the time that I was really ready. I was ready to step into that feeling that I knew I was meant for more, that so many women I talk to will say those exact words. I don't even know what I want to do, but I just know I'm meant for more. And when I was in that season, I was approached about writing a book. I had previously built a health and fitness business. So this person approached me about writing a book to establish expertise in health and fitness. And I just found myself saying, you know, I don't think, first of all, no, thank you. I'm not a writer, right? First was all the excuses why I wasn't qualified, right? The imposter syndrome. Yep. But I said, if I ever did, and I think this was my higher self talking, because I was like, wait, what? If I ever did? But I said, I have conversations with so many women who have these big ideas and they'll share these beautiful visions with me and I can hear it. I can hear like, yeah. And Summer, I'm sure you talk to so many business owners where they share their vision and you're like, yes, that needs to happen. That needs to exist. Same with you, Margot, right? So, and then in the next breath, they'll share with me why they don't feel ready or they don't feel like they're enough. And I said, you know, I think we just need to have more honest conversations that none of us have it figured out. We're figuring it out. Yep. And this woman said, well, if you don't write that book, who's going to? And that was the first time that I had put myself, like I said, in that community of people who could mentor me, who could really call me, not call me out, call me up into who I was really meant to be. Now, my response to her was, well, I'm not ready. I don't feel like I'm enough. And I heard it. I heard that like, okay, Lindsay, if you want to make this difference, you get to go first. You get to step into this place that's uncomfortable, like Summer said so earlier, so beautifully. And so I joined this community of aspiring authors. And what it did for me was I financially invested to be a part of it. At the time, it was the biggest investment I'd ever had made in myself. I was surrounded by other people. This is the collaboration and really the community element, because I was surrounded by other people who were in the same journey that I was in. They were feeling the same discomfort. They could remind me that I was going in the right direction in those moments when I really wanted to quit. And they kept reminding me why I started. And then the community that I would think about, and really the only reason I actually finished that book, because I did try to quit 3 times specifically, but it was like a cute quit. It was like I just don't have time. This just isn't a good season, right? We get like really cute with trying to quit on our big dreams. Like, yeah, just not a good time for me. So I tried to quit 3 times, and I just kept thinking about like specific women in my life that maybe if I just finished this book and just released it into the world and let it kind of be what it was going to be, and really let God speak through the book to whoever was going to listen, that I kept thinking about that community I wanted to impact. Maybe it could impact just one woman. And so that season of my life really is what inspired everything that has become Powerhouse Women today, because I think if we can remember that these callings that are placed on our heart, this business or this passion project, or, you know, just that feeling you're meant for more, that's given to you for a reason, yes, but it's not about you. It is 100% about who you're going to serve by stepping into that feeling of discomfort. But how you're going to move through the places where you would normally stop yourself is by surrounding yourself with others who are on that same journey, and normalize that conversation of like, I'm scared out of my mind. Are you scared out of your mind too? Okay, cool. Like, let's do this together, you know, and like, let's just be honest about that, but also let's seek mentorship from someone who's gone before us. So for me, it was that the journey to becoming an author changed my life forever because I had all three. I was focusing on the people in my life that I felt like I was personally writing this book to. And in a lot of ways, it was like to my younger self. I was in a community of other first-time authors, and we were feeling all of the feels. Margot, I know you know what this feels like. All of the feels about putting your heart and soul out there in the form of a book. And then I was being mentored by someone who knew more than me about the journey I wanted to go on, and let me know that everything I was feeling was normal, and kept reminding me that, like, yes, this book deserved to be out in the world. Mm-hmm. And if it weren't for all three of those, I would not be sitting here today. No one would know me as the founder of Powerhouse Women. No one would know me as anything that they do today. And it required all three communities in order for me to make that big shift into the person that I got to become. And that's the best part about it. The business success, the impact is all incredible, but it's who I got to become in the process, and knowing myself as someone who was willing to do the hard thing and to become this version. I mean, I can't wait to see who I'm going to be a year from now, but the journey has been incredible. But now I know that I need all three of those communities. Anytime I'm starting to feel a little too comfortable and need to remember Summer's words of wisdom, like being comfortable being uncomfortable, I know that in order to really do that and to really step into my next season of growth, I need to have all three communities at the top of mind.
Again, this is where the transparency and the authenticity is so big. And I really want to honor you for working the steps, doing the work required of you. And even though it was hard, even though it was scary, you, again, were willing to do the work required of you. And one of the things that I heard from you is that through this process, yes, you were able to network. Yes, opportunities ended up revealing themselves for you and ones that you created, helped create for other people, but there was healing. There was growth. There was empowerment. You were being equipped for your call. If you don't know by now, we are all women of faith. So let's just, tear that open as well. And so that's the beautiful piece. Again, you were being equipped for your call. And the one thing that I just want to add to everything that you just shared, again, so on point, is helping the audience understand this, that your obedience to learning what you need to know and doing the work required of you, your obedience is directly connected to other people's breakthrough. There are people who you are called to serve, if you are called to lead. And so if you are just staying stuck with where you are, whether it's mindset, whether it's from experience, which is also connected to mindset, whether it's procrastination, which is a habit that's connected to your mindset, right? Whatever it is, you get to this line, but when pressure is applied, you shrink back, you regress, you allow those old habits or those self-defeating thoughts to dictate the outcome. You're free today. Like, that's part of what we're talking about here, is that when that pressure is applied, we challenge you to apply pressure right back. that's really what I just took away from your story, Lindsay, when you just shared that piece. So thank you again for your transparency when you just shared your journey with us there.
Yes. And it's such I always think about that piece of the journey, especially at this point in the year. September is always when we have a live event. And that was like a big, that was really what came out of me being willing to finish that first scary project of the book, and then getting to bring women together to have these conversations in real life.
Yeah.
And it was never meant to turn into anything. I'll just be honest, because we're just in the truth time of this conversation.
That's
right?
it.
I really want people to get that anyone you look up to, anyone you admire who's really doing it, they had a point where they had to step forward in faith, not knowing how it was going to turn out.
Right.
And what I wish someone would have really helped me understand much earlier is the fact that the longer I waited to feel ready, whatever ready means, the longer I waited to feel like, oh, I've got this together, I've got a whole plan, this is going to work out exactly how I want it to. The longer you wait to hit that point, because it never comes,
never,
the more people you miss the opportunity to impact.
Yep.
And that's why I think it's just so important for us to be more honest about the fact that, yes, even the people, I mean, now I've got almost $1 million business out of this little idea that was never meant to become a business, that even the people who are doing it have those moments. Like, I don't clearly see the path for where I'm going next. I see little steps.
Yes.
But that now I know that all I really get to see, all God ever gives me is like the next 1 or 2 steps. Because if I could see the whole path, it would require no faith, and I wouldn't grow in the process. So I wish I would have learned that so much earlier, but I also learned it at the perfect time, right? Because I can now look back and see all the years that I really just made it harder than it needed to be. And, when I say we're not meant to do this alone, a big part of that is my faith being a part of this. And I just love that you so generously and openly shared how that plays a role in your business too, Margot, because we're kind of leaving a big portion out if we don't talk about that too. So whatever faith means to you, those of you listening, I think when you have faith in something that's bigger than you, it also helps you get out of the way. Because I remember like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not really in control here. I'm just the one who gets to show up and answer this call. Yep. And it's the biggest honor of my life.
I'm a vessel. That's right. That's right. And again, so you talked about your journey. You talked about how you specified how community has impacted your life. You talked about collaboration as well. And again, everything that you're sharing here is so important. And so I want us to talk about something that you've mentioned a few times, but we didn't go deep here. And again, this section of this segment, we're talking about the psychology behind community building, right? Which is why we went so deep. We warned you. But when you had me as a guest on your podcast, which maybe I'm biased, but it was one of many great episodes, and I'll definitely drop the link in the show notes later. But we discussed mindset. We talked about imposter syndrome, and so just let's flesh out this topic of mindset of a business leader a little bit more. Can you talk about overcoming limiting beliefs to be the leader of impact you are today?
Yes, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, right?
I had to add this in here. I knew you would. I knew it was.
Well, again, this is the stuff that I think we feel this pressure to pretend like we have it all together. Listen, nobody does. No one who's actually growing feels totally confident that they have what it takes. Right. Like, I know it deep down that I have what it takes to keep going forward. But if I'm not dreaming big enough where it makes me feel like, ooh, me, then I'm still I'm staying within the realm of what I already know myself to be capable of. So I again, wish I would have learned this a whole lot earlier, but
touching it.
What I realized from really that experience writing the book, because what I didn't share and why it was the perfect opportunity for me to learn this lesson is I wasn't a writer. I actually had a blog for 3 years previously. This was years ago now, called Love Lindsay. So cute. It was a health and fitness blog, and I published one article per year. I literally had 3 articles on this blog, and I never shared them with a soul because I was so afraid of what people would think of me, afraid of getting criticism. And so when someone approached me about writing a book, I was like, no, that is not me. And that's what imposter syndrome is. If you haven't heard that term, it's that feeling inside of us of like, who am I to do that? I'm not qualified. That is way out of my league. But let's think about this for a second. If we were only operating within what we knew ourselves to be capable of, we would just keep having the same results, right? Because the life we have now came from what we already know, the mindset, the habits, the thoughts we're already thinking. So the sooner I realized that everything I wanted was actually on the other side of stepping into that feeling of like, okay, I don't quite know how this is going to look. And Summer, you spoke to this so beautifully too, like not being afraid to step up and say, hey, actually, yes, I've got a question. I've got about 1,000 actually. No clue what I'm doing here, but I'm going to figure this out. So I thought that I had to get to the point where I was totally confident, knew what I was doing, and had no doubts in my mind whatsoever. But the truth is that the further I've gone in this journey, the doubt and sometimes the fear actually magnifies. The fears that I feel now are actually on a whole different level. They're bigger, they're more intense. However, because I've gone through the process of stepping into fears and that imposter syndrome at every step of the journey, now I know exactly what to expect. And I also know that like, well, there's going to be something really great on the other side of that. When it gets the most intense, I'm usually getting dangerously close to a new breakthrough and to becoming like another version of myself that I didn't even know was possible. So I think imposter syndrome is this thing we've got to understand is a part of growth. If you didn't feel like an imposter, I would challenge you that you may not right now be thinking big enough. You may not be stretching yourself to think of what's really possible, which that's fine. I've had seasons too where I'm like, no, I'm just going to coast. I'm really just going to be comfortable for a hot second, kind of find my bearings. And then I know it's going to be time to like jump into another season of growth. And if I didn't feel like an imposter, I would know that I'm not yet scratching the surface of what I'm capable of. I'm still just playing in the realm of what I already know to be true and what I already know myself to be capable of. So I think it's either what Summer said before, getting really just kind of finding your comfort within being uncomfortable, or understanding that feeling like an imposter is the sweet spot. That's the feeling we should be working toward most of the time, because that's where our greatest growth lies. And it's also the place, those of you who share a common faith and who like really are committed to building a business that's built on faith. If I feel like I've got it all together, I leave no room for faith. There's zero, I don't need it because I've got it, right? So wherever you find yourself within that conversation, know that this journey of building anything, whether it's a business, or you might feel like an imposter sometimes as a mother or as a service provider, you might feel like an imposter in your corporate job. And that's a good thing. We should always be stepping into the next thing that makes us feel like, me? Who, me? Because then you get to discover new things about yourself and grow into the person that goes, yeah, me. Okay, I got this, right? So it's been a fun journey, but also a really challenging one. And I want to be super honest about that 6-7 years in, I'm actually 11 years into entrepreneurship as a whole. It's never gone away, but I now know that that's when the good stuff happens, is when I'm willing to sit in that fire. Sometimes it just feels like the most intense pressure, but when I'm willing to sit in that and still be grounded in the fact that well, I didn't die the last time I went into something uncomfortable. Let's just see, we use this amazing journal prompt within the Powerhouse Women community, and I'll gift it to all of you because it's so much fun. And it's called Unicorn Brainstorming. Unicorn Brainstorming taps us into the energy of being children again, where we don't even question what's possible. We just dream. And so the prompt, and you can just sit with a journal, and give yourselves enough time to really let your mind expand. And the prompt is it's simple. It's this: wouldn't it be cool if? Now, I think sometimes as adults, we go to what is logical, what is reasonable. No, that's not this. This is, wouldn't it be cool if? So wouldn't it be cool if Oprah called Margot up and said like, hey, I heard you're doing this amazing series. Can I be a guest, right? Like that would be freaking cool.
Sure.
Right? It's stretching our minds to say like, what would be so cool if I got to experience? And not only does this get us back into the part of our brain that is a visionary, less in the logical, the part that wants certainty and control. It taps us into the creativity that naturally is our gift. As women, we are creators. And it also starts to, I think it starts to put the energy out into the world that you just never know. And I'll share a quick story to wrap this point up. And then I'm curious to hear both of your takes on that too. Is we operate so often within the realm of what we know ourselves to be capable of that we don't share our biggest, boldest visions with others around us who may have the exact resource that we may need. And I was in a business mastermind, back to community, and the conversation was getting just like a little stagnant, and we were trying to like really dig deeper into how we could all support one another. And so I said, hey, and this was like a dynamic of men and women. I said, hey, let's do a little unicorn brainstorming. And so we had everyone go around and say like, wouldn't it be cool if, and give their answer. And there's this one gentleman, really big, like fitness influencer, like huge, just like well-known in that industry, physically like huge person as well. Like, you know, so seeing him do some unicorn brainstorming was the coolest, but he was having a little trouble with it. And finally he said, okay, wouldn't it be cool if The Rock, AKA Dwayne Johnson, shared one of my workout videos on Instagram? And we were like, that would be so cool. I kid you not. And here's what happens. I get chills every time I share this story. Someone at the end of the table goes, well, hey, we know his PR people. Now, what if we were still just operating within the realm of what doesn't make us feel like an imposter? Back to the mindset piece that you were talking about. What if we were only sharing what felt safe?
Yeah.
And so I think it's remembering that, tapping into that creativity, allowing ourselves to dream so big to the point that, yeah, it might make you feel stupid for saying that out loud because you're like, yeah, right. Now you just never know. You share that unicorn dream within the right setting. You never know. You might be 1 or 2 introductions away from everything that your wildest dreams can imagine coming true.
And again, that's so on, it's so on point. It was years. I've had this vision for years, and I was like, yeah, I can't tell anybody because they're going to think I'm crazy. And, you know, and I'm going to share this because number one, public speaking is the number one fear. And the vision that I had, that I was given this vision, I'm like, yeah, me? Who, me? Yeah, no, never. And then when I finally embraced the vision, it was to be on a stage or stages of tens of thousands of women, just pouring into them around how to overcome ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, teaching about how to no longer compartmentalize faith in business, all the things that I know I'm called to teach women and leaders of impact. And I finally shared that vision a few months ago. A week later, I had a virtual speaking engagement on a stage of 13,000 speakers. And wow. I'm like, so you're really just saying, just put it out there and then something's going to come back. Okay. And so I wanted to share that brief story. Yeah. Because I've experienced it personally, what Lindsay is talking about. And I wasn't part of this mastermind. I wasn't part of her experience, but this is a practice I practice too. And I know if we weren't getting ready to land this plane, Summer could share the stories and we can go on and share multiple stories on how this is relevant. And so what I want you to take away, not just from my story or Lindsay, what Lindsay has shared about this mindset and how it plays this role, it's so important that you understand that your vision is so much greater than you. That's what this comes down to when we're talking about the psychology behind community building. Your vision is so much greater than you. I think we only have time for one more question, and then I want us to wrap up and land with one or two major takeaways from both Lindsay and Summer. And so this last question, we're going to end real strong. Lindsay, what would you say is the first next step to creating your own community if you don't have a digital footprint or you aren't known as an authority in your industry yet?
I love that question, because the truth is it takes time. So you've got to be committed to showing up and serving and coming forward every day, attempting to solve the problems of the people you want to serve long before people start to know you for that. And that's just the truth of it. So showing up every day, adding value, intentionally connecting. And then I also think supporting yourself by joining a community, or, this is not just a plug for the Powerhouse Women event, but attending events, putting yourself in rooms, either virtually like this one, or physical rooms as those start to open up with others who are on that same journey. And it's just, I can't underline enough how vital that is, because you might get to a point, and I meet so many women who get to a point where they say, gosh, I've been sharing for 6 months, or I've really been showing up consistently for a year, and I just don't feel like it's getting traction yet. When you don't know, you don't realize that you might be 30 days out from like your first big break, or from things starting to create momentum. So I think supporting yourself with others who are on that journey while you're in the process of showing up consistently with a heart to serve for as long as it takes. People want to know, how long does it take? It takes as long as it takes, right? And how consistent are you willing to be, and how committed are you to solving problems for people around you? And I don't know, I don't have the magic answer, but I do know that you do not have to do any of this alone. And whether it's a community like what you've cultivated, Margot, or the Comerica business community, or Powerhouse Women, find the community that feels like it resonates with you and plug in. Become an active member, not just a passive member, because there is value upon value upon value when you put yourself in community with others who are on the same journey.
Completely spot on. And so it is that time as we land this plane. Lindsay, Summer, can you please share just one major takeaway from this conversation that you would like to leave with our audience today?
I'll throw it to Summer first. Do you have yours?
Yeah, I was going to say, Summer, go ahead. You can kick it off.
Well, it kind of comes down to the same thing almost every single month, where it is be you, do it authentically, enjoy what you do. And a lot of people do ask me kind of like, well, what's my purpose? What should I do? It's like, make money so that you can enjoy your purpose. And then venture out that, because a lot of people start businesses and start their focus on, this is what I enjoy to do, this is my passion, but then they lose passion for their passion. So make your money, think with the end in mind, do what you need to do so that your passion can blossom and be what you truly see it to be. And I absolutely loved Lindsay's and Margot's statements of making sure that you're looking at something bigger than yourself, because everything we do is not for us. It's always going to be for someone else. And if you think of it like that, and you think of, what is it that I'm here for? What am I supposed to be doing? Think of how you grew up and how people helped you along your journey, and how you want to be that person for either the youth or for different variations of your journey. So I look at that for Comerica. With Comerica, I look at my 13-year-old self, and I was like, I want to be that woman that other woman was for my 13-year-old self. Like, I want to be that on a much grander basis, but I want to do that. And if you think of it that way, no matter what you do, there will always be a win, because it's no longer about you, and it's about for those that you serve.
Amen. I'm like, that was good.
That's so good. That is so good. And again, it's always bittersweet to come to the end of such a rich segment. Summer, you were just talking about money, so I had to throw that in there. But no, this has been a really, really fulfilling discussion. And I just want to share two more things. Number one, thank you so much for joining us for today's discussion around the community building blueprint. We had a dynamic guest, the community builder herself, Lindsay Schwartz of Powerhouse Women. She joined us today. And again, we had a really dynamic discussion of what does it mean? What actually is the community building? What does that mean? And then we delve into the psychology as well as specific strategies to help you navigate as you begin building your own community. And so I do have to say that we have 4 more segments of this series, and we're going to be talking next about the art of public speaking, and we're going to be talking about developing high performance habits, as well as mindset, meditation, and manifestation, which are few of the things that we actually talked about today. So I'm really excited to be fleshing those discussions out. But then also, I implore you to go and learn more about Lindsay, about the Powerhouse Woman community, and connect with her. And I shared in the chat Lindsay's Instagram, her LinkedIn, more details about the Powerhouse Woman event, which is this weekend. And today I got an email from Lindsay's team that today is the last day to get your in-person or virtual ticket. So definitely take advantage of that. We talked today about being in the room. Get in the room. And when you get to that checkout page, if there's something that it's like, do it. That means you're being stretched. Do it. I'm pushing you over the edge, and it's going to change your life. I will be in the room too. So there will at least be, well, no, you see Lindsay now. So there will be at least 2 familiar faces. I'll be in the audience. And so just give me a hug, sit next to me if there's a seat available. And I also tagged in your book, Lindsay. I'm not going to do a plug unless you want to do the plug, but the first book, I dropped that link in here. And then I also, as I shared, I put the podcast episode in the link or in the comments as well. So definitely go check that out. And so before we close, are there any final remarks? Lindsay, I see your smile. Are there any final remarks?
My cheeks hurt from smiling. This just was really such a gift. And I just really, my final remarks are just to acknowledge both of you. Thank you for showing up and continuing to serve and reimagine how that looks in the very weird world we are in. I'm just so honored and humbled to share space with you and be surrounded by powerhouse women like you. So thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Summer, Lindsay, as always, thank you so much, ladies, for being who you are and for showing up to do your part to build up leaders. So until next time, let's continue making an impact. Bye for now.